Hi and welcome back to the course on virtual assistants and how you go about recruiting and getting your VAs. We're going to discuss in this video whereabouts you might be recruiting from, whether it's home or overseas, and how that might affect your recruitment process. The first thing you want to make sure of is when you are recruiting, you have a plan in place, not just for the work that the person will be carrying out, but also the recruitment process that you're going to be using. The reason why I say that is if you're recruiting someone in the way we showed in the early videos about perhaps getting them to do setting up 2 Gmail accounts and then a calendar and then actually coming along for the interview through text chat, that might vary depending on how you're recruiting. So if you're recruiting locally, for example, you've placed an ad in Craigslist and you're recruiting somebody locally, then you actually might want to meet them face to face. You might want to sit down in a coffee shop and have a day set up of interviews, an hour or two apart, when you bring in the people you like the sound of the most, and then you sit down and have an interview and make a decision based on those people that you see. The other thing about doing that is you might set up a local call-in telephone number or perhaps a virtual web or webinar line that people can use where you ask them to record a message. You might even go as far as to say, can you make me a video? And then those you might ask them to tell you about themselves, their experience, their work history. Have they worked as a VA before? If so, what types of projects they've carried out, what types of tasks they're doing. Do they work full-time? Are they going to have more than one client? All those types of things you might want to find out. You also might want to say to them, look, if you're not experienced and haven't done it before, but you're going to be given very explicitly step-by-step training videos on each task, so you will be actually taught how to do the work. So you've got no experience, but why would we want to employ you if you've got no previous virtual assistant training or experience of any kind and you've not worked online before? Why should we hire you? You might find some bright spark jumps out from the woodwork and surprises you and actually ends up being the best person you ever worked with, all because of their enthusiasm to do the work versus their ability to learn, think on their feet, and follow simple instructions in the beginning you've given them through video. The other thing you want to consider as well is if you're employing locally or perhaps overseas is time zones where people are, so times of day and night that you're going to be interviewing them. Do you need them to have a voice conversation or a face-to-face? Is text chat good and suitable? If so, the way we mentioned in early videos about setting that first task might work perfectly for you. But when you're planning, you want to plan the types of jobs that you think that a VA is going to be needing to do for you. So you need to know where you are in your business. Are you ready to hire a VA? The jobs they're going to be doing, are they ongoing or are they just ad hoc? Because if they're ad hoc tasks, then the types of job recruitment ads you're going to be placing will be very different to those where you require someone who's going to be doing the same tasks day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out, etc. You'll be needing a different type of person, both in the hourly rate that you're paying because of how often you're using them, and also the availability you need from that person. The other thing to keep in mind as well as with the virtual assistant is they're not the same as having like a direct employee as such. If you've got someone that you hire who works in your premises, they sit there at your beck and call, as it were, and if they need a job doing, whether it's making a cup of coffee or posting a new job ad for you, for another VA because they're useless, or whatever it is you're asking them to do, they pretty much should jump and do the job there and then for you because they're in your building. With a virtual assistant, it might work totally different. And this is why you need to be clear about what your needs are before you start the recruitment process. Because if you need someone who's going to work full-time for you, even if it's 40 hours a week, you might find a virtual assistant who's actually working for 3 clients, 2 part-time at 20 hours each, and then you full-time at 40 hours, so they're doing an 80-hour week because they want to earn more money, and they're happy to do those tasks on a task basis. So what I mean by that is rather than working every hour, so like you say to them right now, today I want this document in 2 hours time, it's going to take you 2 hours to complete, so please get started. A VA might work on the basis that in the morning you send them an email with the tasks that they need to complete today. Those tasks take 2 hours, but as long as you have them by tomorrow morning, they can do them in the next 24-hour period. And it doesn't matter to you as long as you get it back. And they then know that they can either start it at 9 o'clock in the morning or 9 o'clock at night. It doesn't matter as long as they have it back to you when you've requested and the work is done correctly. It doesn't matter which time of the day they use those 2 hours. So again, be aware of the person, that they're a human being, that they have a life probably as well, that things happen around them that can affect their environment. And you want to be aware of that when you're recruiting someone and learn as much about them as you can. So, spend some time talking to the person. And if you can talk to them with voice, it's better than just on type, because you actually hear more about the personality that's there, and you can read more into a person when you hear their voice and how they answer questions rather than just the way they reply on a text chat. So the interview process, if you can use a verbal, always do so. Have the questions ready in advance. Ask them about their sort of work style, examples of what they've done before. What computer programs and systems are they using to make sure it's compatible with what you have, and if not, where they can get the free versions of what you'll be needing them to use. Get references from them. Make sure, no matter where in the world they are, get them to give you references of people they've worked for before, whether it's on like a employed basis or as a freelancer or as a virtual assistant. Get previous history from them and make sure it all fits and stacks up. Treat it like you're employing someone properly, and if you do this and save yourself time in the long run because you recruited correctly from the beginning, you won't have the hassle of keep chasing your tail and getting new VAs every couple of weeks just because you didn't plan the process properly. Ask them the types of companies and industries they've worked in before, because they might not have any connection or relation or understanding to your market at all, so they'll need a bit more time to adjust. Find out if they're the sort of person who can think on their feet. Are they a self-starter? Are they task-orientated? Are they project-orientated? Will you need to literally show them every single step? And like I said in the very beginning in the videos, sometimes it's better to start that way anyway. But it also comes back to, are you actually ready to employ a virtual assistant yourself? Do you know you need someone full-time, part-time, just for a couple of hours a month? And are the tasks that you're going to have, are they easy to put into video documentation so that you know they can follow step by step? Because the more you make it this way in the beginning, the more easier it is for you to measure that person and the work that they're producing for you. Later on, you might find as your business expands and your needs expands, you want a VA who can think for you or think on their own feet and on their own behalf and actually carry out tasks that do require them to actually act upon. Maybe they're a customer support person for you and actually doing it verbally. Maybe they're doing telesales, making appointments for you. So they need to be able to answer questions and deal with those queries on their feet, not think, oh my goodness, where's the video to tell me the answer? So depending on the type of job will sway the way you interview. The other thing to consider as well is the time zone that person's in. If, for example, you're in the US or you're in the UK and someone's in Australia, they're several hours or almost a day ahead of you. So if you're basing a VA where they're going to do setting up of client information for you, perhaps like even websites, you go and see a client today at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and they're wanting a brand new site up, they want the basics set up by this evening, and your VA is overseas where they're now into the evening of Friday night, maybe even Saturday morning, and they don't work weekends, you're going to have to do that task yourself and not this time give it to your VA if it's that urgent. So also think about the work that you do, the situations where you're going to need a VA and whether that could potentially impact your business or not, because if it is going to, that will affect where you recruit from as well. And also what your budget constraints are, because you can find people in other countries that will work for a lot less but be just enough or be good enough or even sometimes better to do the tasks you need. Because of the types of tasks you're recruiting for, you could end up paying a lot less money by outsourcing overseas. But also where you can try to recruit from local if it's going to help you, your local area, and depending on what your needs are. So to summarize this video, have a plan of what your business needs are, the type of person that you want, the type of tasks they're going to be carrying out, have the interview process mapped out in advance. So how are they going to contact you in the first instance? What are the steps of the recruitment process going to be? So is it going to be they leave you a message? Are they going to send you an email? Are they going to be seen face to face on the phone? Are they going to text chat? When's the decision process going to be finished? And how are you going to move forward? So at least that way everybody knows the process and you can make people aware as well when you're going to be coming back to them. And the final thing is also make yourself familiar with the person. Get a confidentiality agreement and non-compete so they don't go sharing information with other clients. And also just ask about their work style in respect of the hours of the day they work and they're available to work. Do they tend to do the majority of that work in the daytime, the nighttime, or weekends? So at least you've got an idea and you can manage deadlines as tightly as possible. And later on when we talk about how you're keeping tabs and reporting, etc., you'll then have that in place. You'll know what to expect and you'll get the VA that you want the first time in the right way rather than having to try and recruit only a couple of weeks later. In the next video, we're going to look at what to pay your VA and how to go about paying them, taxation to consider, etc., and the way that works, and how you can then recruit your first virtual assistant.